What's up, my beautiful people? Hope you're having a tremendous day. Exile451 here with yet another daily dose of Reddit Happy. It's Thursday, so you know what that means. We're going back into r/AskReddit again for some stories that I'm sure are gonna make you laugh. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Alright, so I know we're still in the work week, but this one I think is gonna help carry you through to the end here. Especially for those of you stuck in a corporate office. Because this question was, HR employees of Reddit, what was the most ridiculous/hilarious complaint you ever received? Oh, and let me tell you, there are some stupid ones in here. HR consultant for 10 plus years. You won't believe the amount of times I've had to shut people down for trying to sell their pyramid scheme side hustle at the office. And then a follow-up there. What about when it's your boss? One of our bosses went to a Deepak Chopra thing and came back with a poster she put on the wall saying, "In one life, we all wear many hats," with a picture of 5 differently colored hats stacked on top of each other. Wow, Deepak, you're as deep as the ocean. Then she spent the next 6 months trying to talk people into buying stuff from her, like toothpaste, jeans, all sorts of stuff. We'd be in her office for a meeting and suddenly it would segue into a sales pitch. What was particularly annoying about this was that her and her husband are well off, if not rich. He's a senior doctor, she's a head accountant, they own multiple homes, but are still trying to squeeze a bit more money out of people who work under them. She was actually a nice person, but man, we got tired of being asked to buy stuff from her. The only thing I will ever buy from a coworker are Girl Scout cookies. Universal rule. As long as you live by that, your life will be happy. I was once asked to investigate a sexual harassment situation where 3 different women were coming on to a male coworker throughout their shift. I took down the details, got the names, easy peasy investigation. Or so I thought. A week later, nobody by these descriptions or names had ever worked for the company. I decided to talk to the gentleman again. After a lengthy conversation where things didn't quite stack up, I asked him how these women communicated with him. I kid you not, with a straight face, he looked me in the eye and replies, "Telepathically," like I'm some kind of idiot. I had never sent an employee for a psychological evaluation up to that point, and I hope to never have to again. So yeah, I was asked by a delusional schizophrenic to conduct a sexual harassment investigation on the voices inside his head. Maybe they weren't voices, though. Maybe it was just a grand conspiracy to hide who these women really were from you, and to this day, legend has it, they still sexually harass him because HR never stepped in to do anything. Think about that before you start criticizing an employee. Not HR, but my company is too small to have one, so it just falls on me. Used to have an AR clerk who would snack at her desk all day long. We're a pretty casual, laid-back company, so it's not a big deal as long as she was getting her work done. But then it escalated to having food constantly being delivered. Tacos in the morning, pizza at lunch, Chinese in the afternoon. It was bizarre, and made it difficult for her to work when she's eating full meals all day. I was on the fence about saying something, until she brought in an Instant Pot. She plugged it in and cooked a freaking pork roast at her desk, poured in barbecue sauce she brought, and ate on it all day. I was I was dumbfounded. It was so strange. I pulled her aside the next day and told her how unprofessional it was. She was shocked and told me I was being unfair because I never specifically said no one was allowed to bring in an Instant Pot. She truly seemed genuinely surprised that she wasn't allowed to do that. She scaled it down after that, but I sometimes wonder how much further she would have gone if I never said anything. Oh, and then the comments here. At some point, there'd have to have been a full spit-roasted pig over a bed of coals. You didn't say I couldn't bring in a freshly killed deer, gut and skin it in the office bathroom and then start an open fire in the middle of the office to cook it. No, why should I offer it to anyone else? They all brought in sandwiches. You're discriminating against me. I swear, there is a bit from The Office about that where Dwight tried to I can't even get it out. Where Dwight tried to gut and skin and prepare a Christmas goose at his desk. I swear I remember something about that. If someone could post that link, I would love you forever. But my gosh, I mean, can you just imagine being a client and walking in there and just smelling pork roast throughout the entire office? Oh my gosh. Oh, that would either be super unprofessional or amazingly wonderful to walk into. I'll tell you this much though, it would smell so much better than a receptionist who bathed in essential oils. Cause, I've worked with those people before. Not fun. Not HR, but I have a story about an HR person that I will never forget. The company I worked for hired a new girl in the HR department. She was young and very enthusiastic. I'm sure this was probably her first job out of college. Cut to a week or so later, and I'm riding in the elevator on the way up to the executive floor. And she steps in with me. A couple floors later, we stop, and an older gentleman wearing a polo shirt and jeans gets on. Before I could greet him, she says, "Pretty casual for a workday, huh?" I had to stifle my laughter when he replied with, "That's one of the benefits of owning the company." She turned an amazing color of red that I haven't seen since. It was all in good fun though. She ended up working there a long time. You know, honestly, funny as that is, props to her. Shows she took her job seriously. I was the complainer in this one. My buddy was dating a girl that worked in HR at my company. Their relationship starting was totally unrelated to me. They'd gone to college together. He dumped her and she didn't take it well and started threatening my job since I was still friends with him. I lodged a complaint just through the main email, hrcomplaints@company.com or whatever it was. My complaint was assigned to... guess who? I ended up having to independently schedule a meeting with the VP of HR because the regular reps and middle managers were protecting their rep rather than believing me. Oh dude, that sucks. I was the one being complained about. A patient had asked if it was okay to remove her IV fluids because she was going home. She was one of those people who was very convinced that if we took her fluids out, she would die. She was admitted for the common cold and uses her insurance to pay like this, so she didn't have to spend a dime. Anyway, I told her that, "It's okay, ma'am. We're just running regular saline water through your IV. No more meds, you can go home today and we can take that out." Get a notice from HR the next day saying I wasn't using proper medical terminology for IV fluids. HR didn't do anything. They just tossed the complaint at me without asking questions. My HR department once fell for a phishing email and sent everyone's W-2s to a random hacker. HR then informed everyone via a mass email with no read receipts at 9 p.m. on a Friday, even though multiple people were on vacation and had left instructions to be called in an emergency. When I got back from my trip a week later and expressed my concern about her not actually notifying me about this, she totally brushed it off. I said, "Do you realize that I need to freeze my credit and I'm 7 days late in doing so?" She said, "No, don't freeze your credit. You won't be able to use your credit card if you do." Another time, during a workers' comp claim, I needed to speak to our claims adjuster and she said, "An adjuster doesn't get assigned until after the claim is settled." That's the exact opposite of how that works. She was my stupid complaint. Oh, dude, I feel ya. Bad HR just sucks. She came in with a complaint that she tried to give one of the younger guys a hug, and he refused. His story was that he basically had to run away. I had to explain to a middle-aged woman that it was not her right to hug people who didn't want to be hugged. She still didn't get it, and left thinking she was still in the right. Okay, this one's a doozy here. From my wife, as she has worked HR for 17 years. She's more on the legal side of HR for a huge national grocery chain. Employee gets written up for disappearing during shift. Manager and supervisors call him multiple times. Employee returns 30 minutes later like nothing happened. Didn't have a valid excuse, like I was outside with a customer or whatever, and they'd looked too. He files a union grievance and complaint. Union schedules an arbitration hearing at their offices, so my wife has to make an hour drive to represent the company. Store manager also needs to be on hand as he issued the write-up. Normally, it would just be a fine, don't do it again, and we'll cave into the union. But my wife found out the property manager just had perimeter cameras installed. She shows up to the meeting, clerk brings his mom even though he's like 18 or 19. Dude says he never hears calls for him to come to the front. She explains that there are loudspeakers in the back dock area. He says he wasn't there. She just lets him keep talking. Then she opens her laptop and plays a video. Is that you? Dude goes white as on the screen he is seen having sex with a local prostitute. Turns out the guy's girlfriend worked at a different department at the same store and just happened to be there that same day. He ends up quitting and girlfriend breaks up with him. Well, sure, the guy didn't have a valid excuse. I mean, who's gonna really believe he got lucky during a 30-minute break? And of course, he's not gonna want to admit to paying for it. So, whatever. I mean, dude, seriously? How stupid are you? This just reminds me of the brief time I worked for a temp agency where their questionnaire thing asked, is it okay to show up to work high on cocaine? What? No, of course not. And yet apparently, plenty of people answered, yes it was. I just don't get people. Ah. Idiot! Someone complained about another employee smelling of rotten chicken and feet. The scent was bad enough that no one wanted to work with that guy around. Had to put on a hygiene fundamentals in the workplace presentation for that entire group since I couldn't single out Smelly. I think he got the hint because he also got a haircut. We had an employee walk out in the middle of third shift, leaving one person alone to do all the work. He came back a week later and asked us to write it up like he'd been let go because he wanted to file unemployment. Obviously, we wouldn't do that. Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm fairly positive that's fraud and would make you complicit in it. One gal had an obsession with mini muffins. She brought a 12-pack with her to work 3 to 4 times a week, never labeled them as hers, and frequently left them on the shared foods counter, where it's up for grabs to the whole staff. One day, someone who was newer accidentally ate one of the mini muffins. Pandemonium followed. There was screaming, tears, thrown pastries, threats of physical violence. I had to complete a report explaining that the scuffle ensued because another woman had violated her mini muffins. And the whole time, this woman is fuming and crying like someone ate her firstborn child instead of a muffin. What can you say? She loves her muffins. And there's nothing quite like a mother's love for her muffins. Just want to throw in here, I thought this was especially poignant because right now where I work, we are going through a massive HR-worthy debacle that no one is taking to HR because the guy at the center of it all is protected by the company. Oh. So if you feel like you can relate to that, by all means, feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear your workplace horror stories as well. That was r/AskReddit, and if you want more funny or uplifting AskReddit content, then feel free to click on the playlist link in the description below. Now you guys go out there, have a great day. I will see you all tomorrow. Until then, I'm Exile451. Stay beautiful, people.